Today, we are going to go over the Mica Galvao vs Wagner Rocha match at ADCC 2024. We're going to skip the first 7 minutes of the match so we can get straight to the action. We see that Wagner goes for a double leg and Mica counters with a beautiful foot sweep. The foot sweep starts with the over-under grips Mica is able to obtain while Wagner is trying to go for the double leg. And it was a really good option at this point because Wagner continued to be aggressive, pressing forward, and Mica was able to redirect that energy for a well-timed foot sweep. And because Mica already had the over-under grips from defending the takedown, when he lands in side control, it's very easy for him to start getting a head and arm grip. When Mica feels comfortable and Wagner is facing to his right side, that's when Mica starts going on knee and belly and starts transitioning into mount position. Wagner is able to catch Mica's ankle and put him in 3/4 mount, and something that we have to note while Wagner is defending is that he has a good frame with his left arm where it's keeping Mica's hips away, but it's also not across his center line, which keeps him safe from Mica attacking the back. You can see that Mica is trying to keep that underhook on his left side because that prevents Wagner from performing an elbow knee escape. Wagner wants to get rid of that underhook, so he uses his left arm to push Mica's arm up, and that gives him enough space to swim his right hand into inside position. And as soon as he wins that inside position, notice how he brings his elbow back to Mica's hips to regain that very important frame. That left frame allows him to off-balance Mica for a split second and get his left knee back into position. After a few seconds of playing around in open guard and half guard, Wagner decides to push Mica's hips with his leg and get back into a standing position. There's a very important lesson there to learn, where you don't have to be complacent playing guard if you don't want to. There's always an option to push your opponent's hips away to start getting back up if you want to fight from your feet. Now we're going to get past the 10-minute mark, and if you're unfamiliar with ADCC rules, there are no points until we get past the 10-minute mark. So you'll notice in a lot of finals matches, there are athletes that don't mind as much being taken down in the first half of the match, but in the second half, it's a whole different story. Athletes will do everything in their power to avoid being taken down, and sometimes that includes putting themselves in bad situations just to avoid points being scored on them. And we're going to see that a few times in this match as well. Now at the 9:30 mark, Wagner is able to get a takedown from here, but we weren't able to see what actually happened because the referee is in the way. Luckily, we do have better footage of this takedown because Wagner tries to perform this at the 8-minute mark at the match with the same grips. So you can see that he has the underhook on his left side and he tries to go for a lateral trip on both of Mica's legs. But in this instance, he fails because he isn't able to make contact with Mica's far leg. And that allows Mica to keep his balance and sprawl properly. But when we go back to the original clip, you can see that Wagner was able to successfully get the takedown because he was able to make connection on the far side leg and trip Mica. Before Wagner can establish top position, Mica uses his butterfly hook and reverses the position. Wagner cannot accept being on bottom position in this frame because if Mica settles in top position, he's going to get points for the takedown. So with no hesitation, Wagner immediately starts going for a takedown of his own. And because of his aggression, Mica is able to get an over-under grip and he's able to clear his right leg over Wagner's left arm, which was trying to prevent Mica from getting to the back. But Mica's athleticism allows him to get that hook on his right side, and he has Wagner's left arm trapped on his left side. From here, Mica manages to get under the chin, and Wagner is in serious trouble now. And at this point, he only has two options because he only has one arm available to him. He can try to unclasp Mica's hands to get rid of the choke, or he can start getting rid of a hook. You can actually see that he's trying to decide which one to do because he initially goes for the hands and realizes that this is not going to be a winning battle, so then he starts going for the hook. At the moment where the hook starts becoming loose, Wagner falls backwards and starts quickly turning to his left hand side. The reason for this is to avoid Mica's right hook, which he successfully defended, and he was able to get out of a very tough situation. A very impressive escape from Wagner to get out of Mica's rear naked choke. From here, Wagner is trying to put the pressure on Mica's half guard, so he can look to start to pass into side control. And from here, we're going to see an interesting sequence from both players. So while in half guard, Wagner is able to pin down Mica's left leg with his right knee. He switches his right hand grip that was originally on the ankle to the inside of Mica's leg, and he pins down Mica's left leg to the floor so it's flat. Notice how Mica's right leg is at a 90-degree angle facing upwards, and that actually makes him susceptible to the hip switch, which Wagner goes for. Wagner is very close to passing in this position, but Mica does an equally impressive defense as well. He starts by using his right arm to frame against Wagner's hips to give him some time. From here, he plants his left foot to the ground and shrimps his hips away so his hips are facing towards Wagner. Wagner loses the very important grip on his right hand, and he's forced to put it on Mica's hip instead of his leg. That gives Mica a very important opportunity to leg swipe in this position, and that makes all the difference to defend the guard pass. Now while Mica is inverted, he has his right foot by Wagner's left hip, and it doesn't seem like a very big deal in this moment, but he actually uses that along with the grip on Wagner's leg to push Wagner off balance, which allows him enough space to start getting back up to his feet again. Remember, this is past the 10-minute mark, and it's very hard to score points from the bottom position. So a big priority for both of these competitors is to get back on the feet, score a takedown, and gain advantage in the points department. We get back into a neutral position, and we see that Wagner has this very heavy inside collar tie on Mica's head. He converts that collar tie into a deep underhook on his left side, while Mica grabs the overhook. Wagner tries to push Mica's left arm away so he's able to go for a double underhook on him. Now, while he's digging for that second underhook, his posture is very upright, and he's actually leaning back enough where his legs are in front of his body at this point. So Mica takes advantage of his positioning and goes for an outside trip in this position. Again, Wagner tries to avoid the takedown at all costs, and he does not want to be on his back in this position. So he tries his best to start getting back up, and before Mica can settle in top position, Wagner rolls on his right shoulder and tries to turtle. Mica has the over-under grip, he's able to get his right hook in, and Wagner is doing everything he can to deny the left hook. You can see that Wagner has a grip on Mica's left heel, so the way Mica gets rid of that is by bringing his left leg back far enough to the point where Wagner isn't able to make connection with the foot anymore. And once that foot is free, he takes that opportunity to trap Wagner's left arm. Now we're in a similar situation that we saw before where Mica has the back, an arm trapped, and trying to attack the rear naked choke. While Mica does have an arm trapped, he isn't actually able to get the hook back in, and when Wagner extends his left arm out, he is able to defend against the hook. At this point, Wagner is bent over, Mica is way too high to keep attacking the rear naked choke from here, and so he tries to transition by letting go of his hooks and trying to bring Wagner over, but he wasn't able to keep chest connection with Wagner's back, so he falls off the back and then he's forced to retain his guard. Mica was most likely trying to hit a similar back take that Joseph Chen did against Lucas Barboza at last year's CJI. So for the next 2 minutes, it's basically Wagner trying to pass Mica's guard and being unsuccessful at it. Eventually we get to the point at the 4:30 mark where Mica was able to find enough space to get back to his feet. Again, for the next minute or so, we see a few stand-up exchanges that don't lead to much until we get to the 2-minute mark. So we can see that both players have collar ties on each other, and we have this brief moment where they're both standing very still with each other. And at this point, Mica just goes for it, and he's able to successfully get the ankle pick on Wagner. Wagner turns away to try to stand up, but before he can do that, Mica immediately starts attacking the back again. And this time, when Mica is able to trap Wagner's left arm, he's able to turn him over onto his back. And now Wagner has to defend the rear naked choke while they're both on the ground, and it's a very different situation than what we saw earlier. And while Mica is able to get a body triangle on Wagner, you can see that Wagner's hips are facing downwards right now, and he's trying to force himself into another turtle position, and that's the last thing that Mica wants. So he undoes his body triangle, and he uses his left hook to force Wagner's hips to face towards the ceiling again. This is a very important control detail to take away Wagner's options from standing again. Now at this point, Wagner is just trying to do his best to find some sort of angle with his hips to try to escape the back. But in doing so, he isn't paying attention to his upper body as much as he should, and he carelessly has his arms extended at this point. And Mica uses that carelessness and quickly snatches up a rear naked choke grip on Wagner. Wagner tries to attack the grips at this point, but it's simply too deep and he's forced to tap at this point. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and I will see you in the next video.